Thank you again, everyone, for joining us this morning for Webinar Wednesday. Today we're going to look at the GeoSync GO Desktop, the different ways that you can export data from GeoSync GO. Of course, a lot of people have been entering data into the system and have questions about how you can actually get that information back out to use in other programs. So the first thing I want to look at is some of the custom tools that we have for, in this case, for 911 mapping and addressing. When someone is using GeoSync GO, the GeoSync GO system for mapping and addressing of 911, you will ultimately need to get the information out of GeoSync GO and sent over to the dispatch map system. So to do that, and a lot of times the dispatch mapping has a specific format that they want the roads and address points in. So we have an option, or have a tool. If your account is set up for 911, you'll have a button at the top for the Go 911 tools. About the third one down, there is a 911 import and export tool. When you open that, you'll notice the first tab is for importing roads. That's actually just to get roads imported from another source. But what we're looking at today is the export. So if I want to export my roads layer out for my dispatch mapping, I would go to 911 tools, the 911 import and export, and then select the export roads to CAD, computer-aided dispatch. In this case, there are some settings that are required for this tool to work. We won't go through those today. Just want to show you how we can actually export the data. So we want to connect. First, we'll connect to the data source. In this case, you'll see on the left all of the fields that are in my source and my master database, their data type and their maximum length. On the right, the very right column, you'll see an export name. The fields that we want included in our export will have a name in this field. If they don't have a name, that field is not included in the file. In this case, what we're exporting is actually a shape file. So our end result shape file for the dispatch mapping will include those fields that are designated here with a name, and these names can actually be different than the original. You'll notice here on the source field, this maintenance field will actually be called ownership. So, and again, that's all set up kind of behind the scenes in the initial setup. So once we've connected, we simply select the export tool button, and it will open our GeoSync GO Pro 911 tools, ready to export the roads. From here, you will select CAD export road, run tool. I'm not going to do that because it could take a couple of minutes to run. We don't want to take up time waiting on that. But what this will do is actually export a shape file into an export folder in your data folders, named by the preset name with the fields that have been selected. And that file, the shape file, can then be copied over to the dispatch mapping system. For the address points, you simply select the export address to CAD and run the same process. You connect. The fields that you want to include in the shape file are designated under the export name. You select export. Same process. It opens up the GeoSync GO Pro 911 tools, and you select export, the same as we did on the export roads. So at that point, you will have a roads shapefile and an address shapefile that can be copied in the format required for your CAD system. You can copy those shapefiles over and import them into the CAD dispatch system. Now, another system we want to look at, another tool under the Go 911 is the Geo Search Builder. The Geo Search Builder actually builds a search engine database that, in this case, that can be used in ArcGIS. You could use it in GeoSync XG. GeoSync GO actually uses this. It's actually a search engine database that we use to search for an address on the map. to, and again, this tool, there is some setup that has to be done, some configuration. But once that's done, you simply open the tool, click Go, and it will build that database from the current 911 mapping and direction data through your roads and your road center lines and your address points. It'll use the master data to build that search engine that you can use in the other GeoSync GO products and in ArcGIS. So moving on from there, we want to look at some of the standard tools for exporting data. I'm going to switch to a different project in GeoSync GO. Give us a different flavor here. Some of the standard export tools, we'll start with the map view. There are two ways you can export the actual map view to be used in other programs. Say if you want to include it in a Word document or some other program as an image, you go to your map settings and tools, come down to export map. Now export map, it will actually export this map view into a Windows format, the PNG format. From here, you can actually save that as a file somewhere on your hard drive or thumb drive, whatever. But it has actually created a file that you can save, and it typically opens in Windows Photo Viewer. The other way that we have just below export is copy map. This does just that. It actually copies the current map view to the clipboard, and from there you could go to another program and actually paste that image. So anything that will accept an image, you can actually copy and paste directly from GeoSync GO. There are some reports that we can export. This one we'll get into more of a data export. If you go to the GeoSync GO dashboard, where we can actually have a view into the actual databases that we're using, the workflow databases, if you're in there, we'll look at our code enforcement workflow, our feature records. So here are all the features or points, records we have for our code enforcement project. If I want to export that out to use, if I want to go on a spreadsheet, or I want to export that out for another system, I select, of course, the database or the workflow that I want, click the export button, and at the top, the default export path is your documents folder, GeoSync GO, and export. Below that, you have a name. You can actually give this a name. We can say, I want to call this Code Enforcement 2016, 160601. Give it a date. Click export. I've already done that one, but I can override it. So it actually wrote a CSV. In this case, we're exporting a CSV, or a common limiters text file. And you can see it went to My Documents, GeoSync GO, export, and create a file named Code Enforcement 2016-0601.csv. Another way you can export from here, if you're using, say, user reports. I've got one here set up for inspections that have no environmental issues. It's just a custom user report. It's the same data set, but in this case, I've built one that only shows me the inspections that did not have environmental issues. And I've trimmed it down a little. When I run the export, I can run the same export tool in the same way. Inspections with no environmental. It's going to that same export folder, creates the file, the CSV. In this case, it only has the records that are displayed in this view. That's actually a new feature that's just come out to allow that. The one I did earlier, if I did the entire database, that's all of the records. This one, where I'd actually done a custom report, it only exports what we see on the screen. In the same way, if I had gone from the major records and used the tools up here to query, by address, date, what have you, if I queried this list to trim it down to just what I need, then it would only export what's visible. in that CSV that we created. Now, the next one we'll look at is the export from our layer attribute view. If you remember, now we're actually looking at the map view here. If I select the layer tab, then I see an attribute view of my data. From here, you can also export the data. We have a few more options in this case. The export button is just at the top of the list. When I select that, you see first you have a name, a file name. We can change that. We'll call this codes June or something. The next thing you'll look at is the type of file that we want to export. By default, I'm set to an ESRI shapefile. This is actually, if I keep that, it will actually export an Esri shapefile of this data set. The default folder is my documents, GeoSync GO, export shapefiles. So it will create a shapefile in that folder. Now, you can use the browse button to select a different folder, maybe to a thumb drive or server, wherever you want to send that or create that ESRI shapefile. But again, the default is shapefiles. If I selected a CSV file, a column blended text file, the default folder is export CSV. The third option you have is to create a GeoSearch layer. Basically what that is creating another, basically a copy of a GeoSync GO layer file. If you want to share that with another project, with another user, you could actually export this data out as an actual GeoSync GO layer file and then copy it to, or copy it somewhere, send it to someone else. That default folder, GeoSync GO, export, GeoSearch layer. So it puts it in the default folder. Again, with any of these, you can change the folder location. Another option you have on the ESRI shapefile, if you're exporting shapefile, if you had attached images, photos, videos, what have you, attached images to your features, you can select this option to include GS image field in the export, and so when it exports out the shapefile, it will also create a copy of the images linked to those features. So you can actually say, and pull this into ArcGIS, you can have access to the photos linked up to the points. And actually, that concludes the webinar for today. Short, sweet, to the point. Thank you for joining us.